great speaker for the abolitionists. Standing before large audiences like this one, he could tell about his childhood and about the evil of slavery.
I am Frederick Douglass. I was born a slave. Was like any other slave. We know nothing about a birth more than donkeys and dogs knew about their birth. I'm not sure when I was born, but I believe I was born somewhere about 1818. I saw very little of my mother. I can remember one night when my mother came by and I was telling her that the mistress had not given me anything to eat and wanted to starve me to death. I can remember the look on her face. That night, I sat on my mother's knee and I felt like a king upon a throne. That night I realized not only that I was a child, but I was somebody's child. That night she gave me a cake in the shape of a heart. And I will never forget that. My dream, however, my joy, my kingdom, my throne that I was existing on was only short-lived because I fell asleep. And when I woke in the morning, Mama was gone. I never saw my mother again. My grandmother took me and delivered me to my slave owner. And you must understand how I felt so betrayed because my own grandmother gave me to my slave owner. Then as I grew from the age of 7, my mother, I learned later on that she could read a hand slave. My mother, I never spent time with her. I can remember days when on the plantation, my slave master's wife, she was teaching me the letters of the alphabet so that I could read. But the slave owner was so upset about it and that was stopped. What I did to learn, because I had this desire to learn to read, I would give away my lunch to other children just so that they could teach me how to read. They sent me to another plantation where this man whose name of Cor, he was one who was known to break in slave, and one day he whipped me, and I couldn't take it any longer, and so I fought back, and I won. And from that day onward, he never beat me again. I got the assistance of this wonderful woman who I later married. She gave me some money that she had saved up, and so I ran away to New York, where I could try to be a free man. Shortly after, I became a preacher. Then after that, I ran away to England and was just too scared of being captured again. Then I came back. The persons there and were able to give me enough money so that I could purchase my freedom. So I came back and purchased my freedom. The hand of slavery played a hard hand on me, but I stood up and I triumphed. I was freed, a free man.
Mr. Frederick Douglass sometimes took off his shirt during his speeches and showed the deep whip marks on his back. Sometimes this caused some women in the audience to faint. And sometimes another former slave, a woman, joined him in speaking of human rights. Meet Sojourn Truth.
Well, children, there is so much record out there, something must be out of kilter. I think that between the women of the South and the Negroes of the North, all talking about rights, you white men out there, gonna be in a fix pretty soon. Now, what is all that they're saying? That white man over there, you, he's saying that women has to be lifted into carriages, carried over ditches, and given the best place everywhere. Nobody never give me any best place nowhere. Nor lift me into any carriages or carried me any over mud barrel. Why? And I, a woman, look at me. Look at my arms. Look at my muscle. I have planted, plowed, and gathered into bonds, and no man could hit me. I can walk as much as a man, and believe me, I can eat as much as a man when I can get it. And I can bear the lashes as well. And I, a woman, I have born 13 children and seen most of them sold off to slavery. And when I cried in my mother's grief, none but Jesus heard me. And I, a woman, now, what is that thing in the head? What do we call that thing in the head? Intellect. Yeah, intellect. What does intellect have to do with women's rights and Negroes' rights? If my cup can hold nothing but a pint, and yours can hold a quart, wouldn't you be mean if you don't let me drink my little half measure full? That little man in the black out there said that women cannot have as much rights as men because Christ wasn't a woman. Where does your Christ come from? Where does your Christ come from, I'm asking you? He came from God and a woman. Men don't have nothing to do with it. Now, if the first woman that God ever made was strong enough to turn the world upside down all by herself, you women out there ought to be able to turn it right back side up and get it right. And you men, all of you out there, us women are asking you to do it. If you know what's good for you, you better let us do it.
Another great woman of color did not make many speeches, but she did make many journeys. She herself had run away to where freedom was, but returned time and time again to the slave world to rescue other slaves. She took them from one hiding place to another, using what we call the Underground Railroad. This railroad was not a real railroad, but with tracks and trains, it consisted of many safe houses where runaway slaves could stay on their way to freedom. Some called Harriet Tubman Moses, because like Moses of old, she led slaves to a promised land.
I was only 7 years old when they sent me away to take care of a wife, baby. One morning, as I stood by the table, waiting till I was to take it, beside me was a bowl of white sugar lumps. I never had nothing good. Them sugar lumps sure did look nice. And my missus back was to me. So I just put my finger in that bowl to take just one lump. And she turned and she saw me. Next minute, she had that rawhide down. And I just flew. And it never did catch me. And I'd run, and I'd run, and I'd run. And when I was clear tuckered out, I'd come to a big pig pen. And I stayed there from Friday until next Tuesday. fighting them little pigs for any potato peeling and any little scraps. But by Tuesday, I was so starved. I knew I had to go back to my missus. I hadn't got nowhere else to go. But years later, I did. And that place was Freedom Land. And I took others with me. You see, I figured I had the right to one or two things. Liberty or death. And if I couldn't have one, then I was gonna have the other. For no man was gonna take me alive.
You may not know that there were slaves even here in Utah. When the pioneers came, they brought 3 colored servants with them in the very first company. Art Lay, Oscar Cosby, and Green Flake. Green Flake was probably driving Brigham Young's wagon. Years later, at a Pioneer Recognition Day, Green was honored. There, a little girl asked him a question. Mr. Flake, what was it like to be slave?
You don't have to answer that, Mr. Flake.
I'll answer it. Being a slave, well, it's okay if that's all you want to be. But us colored folks, we want something better for our family and our friends. I was raised a slave, and my master told me what to do. He gave me a place to sleep, he fed me, he clothed me, he told me what to do. Sometimes he whipped me and kicked me in my pants because I slumbered, I made a mistake, and sometimes I was just feeling just downright lazy. Slavery been around for a long time. And we are sold and bought like horses and cows, just like animals. Our masters, owners, we are not ourselves. So you ask me about slavery? Some might like it. But trust me, when you're in bondage, you don't have your own thoughts, you don't have your own dreams. You cannot even plan your own future because whatever you do is told to you what to do, what to consider.